So today we began our meeting with a side event on film tourism. We also have several other interesting events lined up in the coming 2 days. So we will be giving you more details about that. But before we start, I would like to invite G20 Sherpa, Shri Amitabh Kant, sir, to give us a perspective on G20, its goals and objectives, and its significance for a country like India. After which, I would like to invite the honorable ministers for their remarks. So, Amitabh, sir, over to you.
Thank you very much. Distinguished journalists and media personalities, we are truly delighted to welcome you to Kashmir. India is hosting the G20 presidency at a point of time when there's a lot of global turbulence. The post-COVID era has seen a vast segment of people go below poverty line. It has seen a lot of people lose their jobs. 1/3 of the world is under inflation. 75 countries of the world are facing a global debt crisis. There's a huge challenge of climate action and climate finance. In the midst of all these crises, India sees G20 as an opportunity. And as our Honorable Prime Minister has said, that India's G20 presidency will be inclusive, will be very decisive, and will be action-oriented. A G20 presidency is largely dependent, to my mind, on three things. Firstly, the political and the development narrative which we set out as the leader of G20 this year, number one. Number two, what are our priorities for G20? And number three is, how do we execute the G20? And let me dwell a little bit on all three of them. First and foremost, in India's case, the G20 is being held at a time when there are 4 emerging markets, one after another, who will hold the G20 presidency. Last year was Indonesia, this year is India, next year will be Brazil, and after that will be South Africa. So 4 emerging markets, one after another, holding G20 presidency. Secondly, the leader of G20 is the Prime Minister, Mr. Modi. He is a democratically elected Prime Minister for the second time, whose credit rating is still at record high level. And secondly is the development narrative. And the development narrative is that we are the 5th largest economy. We are growing at very high rates of about close to 7%. During the last 7-8 years, we've done some remarkable work in development. We've done a huge amount of digital transformation. We do about 11x fast payment, real-time fast payments on mobiles, 11x of what America and Europe does. We do 4x of what China does. We've built about 40 million houses. 40 million houses is like building a house for every single Australian. That's like making a complete Australia. We've provided toilet connection to over about 110 million Indians, which is like providing toilet connection to a toilet to every single person living in Germany. And we provided piped water connection to 243 million Indians, which is like providing a water connection to every single person in Brazil. During the COVID period, we've done about close to 2.5 billion COVID vaccination, which is about 6x the population of United States and Europe together, which was totally paperless, cashless, digital, all digital work. And we've done 55,000 kilometers of road. 55,000 kilometers of road is like making 1.5 times the diameter of the earth. That is the kind of development work which India has done. The second is, what are our priorities for G20? The first is to do very inclusive, resilient, sustainable growth for the global economy. If there is growth, we'll be able to lift people above poverty line. We'll be able to provide better education, better health, and therefore inclusive, resilient, sustainable growth is a major priority. The second is that the sustainable development goals have been impacted because of COVID, and therefore we need to accelerate the pace of sustainable development goals which were to be achieved by 2030. Instead of moving forward, we have regressed, and therefore we'll accelerate the pace of that. And thirdly, our priority is climate action and climate finance. And simply because the earth may survive, we as human beings will go extinct, and therefore our focus will be on climate action and also the flow of resources which have to happen from the developed part of the world and from multilateral institutions. And fourthly, because resources have to flow in, many of the multilateral financing institutions which were made in the post-World War II Bretton Woods period have outlived their utility, and therefore you need to transform multilateral financial institutions and ensure that resources flow to emerging markets. Also, our priority is digital transformation and digital public infrastructure, which is very important. And lastly, the Prime Minister's priority of women-led development. Because 50% of the world is women, how do you provide better education, better health, better nutrition, and put them into leadership positions? So those are our key priorities. And let me dwell on our presidency, how we are executing it. Unlike other countries which do G20 presidencies in their capital or one or two cities, India thought of making this G20 as our Prime Minister felt that it should be a people's presidency. And we take it out to all the states of India. So India is bigger than 25 countries of Europe in size and scale. So we are hosting this G20 in 60 cities of India. Over 215 meetings in 60 cities of India. This is unparalleled and has never been done before. And let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, that we've done almost about 115 meetings of G20 already, and we've had a very good response from the people of India. We've had a very good response from all the G20 countries and the invitee countries and all the international organizations. So the meeting which is being held in Kashmir is very, very important for us because we believe in peace, we believe in progress, we believe in prosperity. We also believe that tourism is a major driver of growth and that it is a very major driver of job creation. And that film tourism here, which was the subject of today's side discussion, will be a very major area of growth for Kashmir in the years to come. And therefore, ladies and gentlemen, with these few words, I'll conclude and I'll request the Honorable Ministers to dwell on this. But this is a broad perspective of what India has done so far under G20.
Thank you very much, sir, for your interesting overview. Moving ahead with our press conference, I would like to invite Dr. Jitendra Singh for his remarks now.
Thank you. At the outset, I must thank Prime Minister Modi for having chosen Srinagar and Jammu and Kashmir for one of the 60 venues where these G20 events are being held. And I also must appreciate our friend, Minister for Tourism, Shri Kishan Reddy ji and his team for having very diligently, meticulously planned this event. A few words about what it means to have it in Srinagar, and then 2 words about what it means to dedicate today's deliberations to film tourism while we hold this event in Srinagar. I think my first thought is that the very fact that we are holding it in Srinagar, in Jammu and Kashmir, is itself an achievement of sorts. The content of it comes later. And I'm sure the delegates coming from other places would be able to falsify the kind of perception or narrative which is sought to be created either by certain vested interests on the one hand or some other self-styled cynics, critics, or self-righteous commentators. You've seen for yourself, and this is an opportunity for you to see with your own eyes what it's all about. Jammu Kashmir has moved on. The common man has moved on. And I would say the common man walking on the streets of Srinagar wants to be a part of the development journey led by Prime Minister Modi. He's seen 2 generations of Kashmiris being sacrificed at the altar of Pak-sponsored terrorism. He's no longer in a mood to succumb to that. And let's not forget, and we owe it also, that the youth of Kashmir is highly aspirational. Sometimes I tend to think that the Kashmiri youth, the youth of Jammu and Kashmir, sometimes is much, much more aspirational than his counterparts in the rest of the countries. I have an opportunity to travel across 2, 3 states of the country every week. The youth here is more aspirational, highly forward-looking, also well-informed, and therefore he can see the enormous avenues unfolding across the country under the leadership of Prime Minister Modi in the last 9 years. He doesn't want to miss the bus. Amitabh was just now referring to, we are now startup number 3 in the world. It's not a small achievement. We just had about 300 startups when we started in 2014. Today we are close to 1 lakh. We have crossed 97,000. We are 115 unicorns, out of which almost 60 unicorns have a founder or co-founder as a woman. In Global Innovation Index, we were standing at 81. We have jumped 41 steps up. We are now 40. And I think more than any youth anywhere else, it is the youth in Jammu and Kashmir who is awakened to this fact. We are now a part of a global journey and he doesn't wish to miss it. I think it's very evident before all of you. I, like many of you, have been a frequent visitor here, have been part of this soil. Whenever there was an event like this or a leader coming from Delhi, you had a hartal call being made from Islamabad and shops being shut down in Lal Chowk or in Sirur. You don't have that kind of a scenario today. That itself speaks of the transformation that has happened. And the G20 event, let's not forget, is being carried out in the same format as it is being carried out in the other 60 locations. You have the same program rolled out. There's no compromise at all. Like, for example, tomorrow we begin the official program. We have an inaugural ceremony, which is followed by working sessions, which is followed by bilateral meetings, which are followed by interactive sessions. Today we had side events, which were dedicated to film tourism, to the Paradise Zone, and now we have a cultural program in the banquet. What more is left? This absolutely, because I've been part of the G20 events, even other places, as a part of the anti-corruption working group in Gurugram, etc. The very fact that it is happening in the same format and the same scale over here as elsewhere itself speaks of the mainstream activity happening in Jammu and Kashmir. And therefore, I think it's in the interest of all of us, and maybe in the interest of the integrity of profession and integrity of the tasks assigned to us, that all of us who are attending this meeting will go back home and tell our natives what it is actually like. We are a part of the global world. If we have to move on, if we have to grow, our challenges are global, our concerns are global. It's none less than Prime Minister. You saw the film now, he gave us the mantra life. Life means life for environment. Is the Prime Minister who spoke in COP20 about climate concerns. We are also committed to net zero targets by 2070. So we have awakened up under Prime Minister Modi to accept the global challenges, to live up to the global benchmarks, and our growth has to be global. And Jammu and Kashmir is very much a part of that. It's ready to move on to that. So that is one message. Second, as far as the film tourism being discussed over here this afternoon and across the evening, I think there could be no other better place across the world. When this panel discussion was going on, thankfully I was not part of the panel, but my stomach was aching to tell those panelists over there that today what is most important evolution in the film industry across the world is the universalization of films. Universalization of films has happened within India and then it's happening globally. For example, till 1950s, till 1960s, we had only 3 film industries mainly in India. That was Calcutta, Bombay, and Madras. Madras Tamil industry was known more for family dramas, AVM, LV Prasad, Gemini. Bombay was known for romantic. Calcutta was known for classics, Tagore, Sarath Chandra. Then Kerala came up as experimental filmmaking. And then, of course, the Kannada and Telugu. Today, there are universal themes happening across India. And since we are part of the global world, our lifestyles have become globally similar. We are so well connected, so well informed about each other. The themes are also global. The stories which are being produced today in India are actually not very much different from what you see in the Bollywood or in the Hollywood. It's no longer that here you have a heroine crying through the film and then, becoming a martyr. It's the same as it is in the Western movies. So that universalization of films is something which we need to showcase and we need to tell the world that look here we are presenting to you a cost-effective location. Whether you are from Hollywood, whether you are from Bollywood, whether you are from Tollywood, whether you are from Collywood. Within a radius of 10 kilometers, you have plateaus, you have meadows, you have snow peaks, you have tulips, and you can just stay in one single hotel, shoot the entire film in themselves. I'm not talking in very philosophical terms as somebody or say, I'm not trying to draw the sentimentality of Kashmir. I'm talking like a hardcore professional. Any hardcore financier of films will find it win-win situation here. And we have had a heritage. I was amazed in the room when I said who was the first. I said the first film star recorded in the history of India was from Jammu and Kashmir. People went back up to Rajesh Khanna, but didn't they go that far? It was Kundarlal Sehgal, who was no. So we have a win-win relationship with the film industry. And now, of course, there's been a trail of it. And I'm sure the message will go that, look here, Kashmir is not only ready to be part of the global journey led by Prime Minister Modi at a time when the other heads of state are also looking up to Prime Minister Modi to take his cues. But Kashmir is also going to be the most profitable, most cost-effective, and most economically viable film destination in its totality and in its finality. In a press conference, I'm told you don't have to deliver a lecture. Thank you very much for bearing with me.
Thank you, sir, for your remarks and for highlighting the boundless potential which Kashmir holds for the film industry. Now, sir, I invite Union Minister for Tourism, Shri G. Kishan Reddy, to share his views.
Friends, Government of India, Ministry of Tourism, closely working with all the ministries in a whole of government approach. Not only Government of India Ministry, we are also working with all the state governments in India. Every ministry, they have taken some responsibility for tourism encouragement and develop infrastructure activity to encourage foreign tourists and domestic tourists. And also, Government of India committed to working with all the G20 countries, invited countries, and all international organizations to promote sustainable tourism and sustainable practice. Friends, just now, Jitendra Singh ji told, after Corona, in India, there is a tremendous response for domestic tourism, especially spiritual tourism. And also, if we take Srinagar city, in March 2022, Srinagar airport, monthly average 90 flights per day. 90 flights per day from Srinagar. The tourist flights, maximum tourist flights are operated. In Leh, 2020, there is 74 flights, increased October 2022, around about 160 flights, 74 to 160 flights today we are running to Leh. And also Srinagar weekly gone up to 532 flights in the end of last year. In this year, we are expecting double tourist foreign also, and in all states, we hope because Government of India, our idea is without private investments, we cannot become a world tourist destination. That's why we want to investments from globally and domestic. We also 100% FDI under leadership of the Narendra Modi ji. We are encouraging and including Northeast states, hill area states, we are requesting the hospitality sector, our stakeholders, to come along with the state government and the government of India ministries for establishment of the infrastructure to the tourists. I hope this meeting, G20 third working group meeting in Srinagar, in future, this not only domestic tourists, more and foreign tourists, and also today successfully we discussed the film tourism. We are also discussing tomorrow also same our stakeholders with tourism policy and film tourism. Definitely in coming days, India for tourism, and film shootings, we are going to attract even foreign countries also. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Now I hand over the dice to G20 Chief Coordinator, Shri Harshvardhan Shringla ji.
I think the honorable ministers and G20 Sherpa has already given us a very extensive overview of both the G20 meeting on tourism as well as our larger national priorities, including the substantive priorities. I just say a few words on the organizational aspects of the G20 and in particular the meeting in Srinagar that is taking place now. As you know, we have hosted some 118 meetings in 46 different cities and locations in our country so far. Each meeting has involved a fair amount of organizational and logistical challenges. Each of them has required a lot of advanced planning and preparedness, and a lot of this is done. The Honorable Minister has spoken about a whole of government approach and teamwork. A lot of this has involved teamwork not only among the central government and the concerned ministries, but also the state concerned and the union territory involved. And I think the meeting in Srinagar is really an illustration of very meticulous advanced planning. A number of visits in advance by the Ministry of Tourism, Secretary of Tourism, Shri Arvind Singh, myself have come here 2 occasions. Other colleagues of ours have also visited. We've had extensive meetings as well as personally visited a lot of the areas that have been involved. And I must say that in the last few months, I mean, since the time we came here last, the changes have been quite dramatic, quite significant. As you know, Srinagar is also implementing a smart city program. And under the smart city program, we've seen some transformational urban changes. If you drive along the riverfront, the Jhelum riverfront, you'll see a tremendous change in terms of the pedestrian walkway. If you go to some of the marketplaces like the Polo Market, you will see that under the smart city program, the entire cabling, which is fiber optic networks, whether it is the drainage systems, water systems, have all been underground, and the entire area has been converted into pedestrian walkway. And that, I think, will give many of the visitors, especially tourists who are coming from outside the state, an opportunity to witness the best of Srinagar, but also to be able to shop and to be able to look at some of the exquisite handicrafts and craftsmanship of Jammu and Kashmir in person. So from that perspective, I think as you go around the city, you will see some fairly substantial changes and very, very extensive preparation for the G20. And we've always felt that it's important for any G20 meeting in any part of our country to not only prepare for the meeting, but also to make the changes that will make those cities better environments with better amenities, better facilities. And G20 meetings take place with the minimum amount of inconvenience. And that's been the effort all through, including in Srinagar. And a very quick word on also one aspect of the vision of the Prime Minister to take G20 to the grassroots levels. As you heard, we have hosted meetings in 46 locations, but we intend to host it in every state and union territory of India, so 60 different locations. The whole idea is not to have the G20 just in the capital, but to take it across to different parts of our country, so everyone, every citizen of the country becomes a stakeholder, participant in the G20 process. In Jammu and Kashmir, there's been quite an effort. The Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir and the regional and local governments have cooperated to hold several sessions, walkathons, cycling competitions, information rallies, model G20, thereby getting the message about the G20 and India's presidency of the G20 down to the level of the grassroots level. I think that is what we call through the Jan Bhagidari mode. And I think that has been a very great achievement, not only across the country, but also in particular in the state of Jammu and Kashmir. And as the Honorable Ministers have both pointed out, and so as the Sherpa, there are going to be tangible benefits of bringing a meeting like the G20 tourism meeting to Jammu and Kashmir. Clearly, this is an important tourism destination. We expect 20 million tourists to visit Jammu and Kashmir in the year 2023. But the idea is to increase both the value in terms of ecotourism, film tourism, adventure tourism. And not only that, but also I think to increase the number of foreign tourists coming to Jammu and Kashmir. And that, I think, the attention that the G20 meeting will bring on this very beautiful and scenic part of our country with a lot of culture and civilization behind it, I think will be very, very successful. So my congratulations to our Ministry of Tourism for hosting an incredible event to the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir, and to our colleagues in the G20 Secretariat with the G20 Sherpa providing very, very important guidance, and everybody else who's been involved in facilitating and making this event actually happen and take place in a way that, as the Minister pointed out, could not have been envisaged a few years earlier. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. As all of you know, in India, the Ministry of Information and Broadcasting works closely with the film industry to promote the film sector. In this light, I would request Secretary Information and Broadcasting to present his insights on film tourism.
Thank you. I would like to speak on film tourism only in the context of Kashmir and from my own personal experience. When I came here for the first time to Kashmir, that valley, that was in 1989. And that time we carried vivid memories of Shami Kapoor sliding down a snow-clad hill, then of J. Shiv Shankar in Gulmarg in the film Aapki Kasam, and so many others of shikaras in Dal Lake. And that is what attracted us to Kashmir as being a young man that time, that is how the films were made and that is what we had seen. But unfortunately, 1989 was the last year before which insurgency started, and thereafter it was a lost almost 3 decades. And India is a young country. Uh, More than 50% of our population is below 30 years of age, and our youth have not seen Kashmir in films. But then that has changed in the past 2 years. The fact today is that the film policy of Kashmir was introduced in the year 1921, and more than 400 films have been shot now in Kashmir in the past 2 years, whether it is films, whether it is TV series, whether it is advertisements. And now, again, uh, not just whether it is Bollywood, whether it is from Hyderabad, Chennai, from all parts of the country, people are flocking to Kashmir, and our youth will again be able to see the beauty of Kashmir. So we look forward to film tourism in this particular state, and that is what is attracting now tourists again in a big way. The Honorable Minister mentioned that the largest number of tourists visited Kashmir last year, and that is the impact of films. More and more tourists will be attracted, not just Indian tourists, which is happening now. More and more foreign tourists will be attracted. Kashmir has a lot to offer in terms of scenic locations, in terms of culture, in terms of food, and which all of you will be able to experience. And this is going to be the golden era for filming in Kashmir. Thank you.